Hargrave House is an old Gothic Revival-style building. It stands out from its neighbors on Belgrave Square, which are done in the more conventional classical style. Hargrave House is also different because it's not just a residence, but a place of work. Dark work. And some more of that dark work has just landed on your doorstep. A back issue of the Illustrated Police News, a tabloid notorious for carrying salacious, blood-curdling tales of dubious provenance, has a story about a young maid, Ginny Hess, who was found dead, apparently from shock, in her employer's St. James's Street townhouse some months ago. The story claims the townhouse is haunted, and that it was almost certainly the appearance of a ghost that caused the young maid to die of fright. After a cursory inquiry, you learn the precise address of the haunting, 18 St. James's Street, and the name of the family that lives there, the Beals. Now comes the time where every threat I get to pose a specific clarifying question to one of the hunters present. I would like to ask our vessel, Mr. Rose. Most tales of hauntings are complete nonsense, especially those carried by the Illustrated Police News. But Hargrave House has some experience with ghosts, and a particular detail in this story confirms that it is indeed a legitimate haunting. What is that detail?
I think that in the reports, there's mention of glass and mirrors breaking, and that is something common with ghost sightings and occurrences, that not quite shattering, falling apart, but that spider web cracking in the immediate vicinity.
Oh, I love that. So the Illustrated Police News reported that detail when Ginny Hess's body was discovered. All of the mirrors and glass in the room that she was in were all cracked.
Yeah.
I love that. So, welcome to the day phase. Every day phase, I introduce a new threat if you have less than 3. This threat is called the St. James's Street Ghost. This threat has 2 questions associated with them. The first question that you can answer is, which part of the house is the ghost attached to? This is a complexity 4 question. Answering this question gives you access to the custom move, Old Bones. Old Bones is a move where if one of you has the Cosmic Passage, Mask of the Future marked, you can touch, listen to, or attune to a building's architectural details and then talk to a ghost that resides in that building and get them to do things for you.
Okay.
Answering this question in no way helps the Beal family with their little ghost problem, but it does give you all access to a very cool move. The question that does help the Beals is, how can we get this ghost to pass on to the next world? That is a complexity 6 question. And answering that question allows you to resolve the threat by performing a quieting ritual. What complexity means in the between is basically how difficult answering this question might be. You combat complexity by applying clues to answering a question. So, for example, for the complexity 4 question of which part of the house is the ghost attached to, you would gather up clues and you would apply as many of them as you wish to trying to answer the complexity 4 question. When it comes time to roll the answer a question move, it starts as a flat roll, and I will add up all of the clues that you have applied to answering that question, and then subtract the question's complexity. So it's plus the number of applied clues minus the complexity of the question itself. So if you apply 4 clues to a complexity 4 question, you are rolling answer a question at a flat roll. It can be useful if you are really intent on being correct to try to get a couple more clues than the complexity asks for, just to guarantee yourself a positive number bonus, but that is completely up to you.
Okay.
The St. James's Street Ghost also has a unique mask that is associated with it. This is called the Mask of the Unquiet. This means that while you are pursuing the St. James's Street Ghost, if it comes time for you to use a Janus mask, instead of invoking one of your personal masks of the future or masks of the past, you can ask to invoke the threat's unique mask, the Mask of the Unquiet. You do not get to know what the prompt is, though. You just have to kind of pick it blind, and I will tell you what the prompt for the narration is.
Okay.
Hunters, the day phase belongs to you as far as roleplay goes. You basically tell me what it is you would like to accomplish during the day phase, and I frame up some scenes for you. This is the cycle of play that is most similar to any role-playing game you are familiar with. The day phase is a great opportunity to frame up some scenes that answer some dawn questions. It's also a great opportunity to investigate the threat, the St. James's Street ghost. But I think before we start possibly splitting up and going all about London, I'd love to frame up a scene of you all mayhaps at breakfast, mayhaps Wainsworth serving breakfast, of getting this back edition of the Illustrated Police News telling you all about the St. James's Street ghost.
We see Fiona walk into the room and toss down the paper onto the table. Now, what do y'all think of this?
Oh, I'm glad you've read it. I was going to ask you all the same thing.
Did you see about the mirrors?
I smile. I did.
Looks like we got ourselves a bona fide ghost here.
It would seem that way, or a very intelligent pretender.
Shall the breakfast be for to go today?
I think we've got a little time. Feel free to have a seat.
No longer at the kids' table.
Wainsworth was standing in the kitchen just, hey guys.
Yeah, I imagine Wainsworth ordinarily eats just standing up in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Over the sink. Now, I don't know about it being a pretender. It's awfully hard to smash a mirror and not actually have it break.
Just entertaining the idea of it?
Nah, I think it's real.
Well, I truly hope so. Shall we have a look?
You thinking you want to go to the house or look for information somewhere else?
Oh, I suppose I hadn't thought of that. Where else would you go?
And I tap the paper again. While this is all very interesting information, I'm quite interested to know what was left out of the paper.
Well, yes, I suppose that is an avenue.
Do y'all think it really scared her to death?
There have been stranger things, no?
It's true, certainly a possibility. Do we know from this how long ago this happened?
It says that she was dead a couple months ago, which makes this even more curious because someone then just delivered an old newspaper to your door. Someone is trying to put you on the case of a death that happened a while ago.
Oh, so it's not like the paper is reporting a death that happened a few months ago. It is from when she died.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Ooh,
Okay.
Okay.
Personally, I'm more inclined to get inside the house and see if there's something I can do to be vexing to whatever presences are there. But I suppose knowing a little bit about what hasn't been reported would give us maybe more detail about where to be vexing inside the house.
Well, I can head on down to the paper myself. Meet you back at the house later.
Would you like me with you, sir?
I smile again. I'm more inclined to give you the day. If you'd like to come along with me, that would be lovely. If you'd like to accompany Miss Cross, by all means do. Or if you happen to have any theories.
If we are spreading out, examining our options, I'd quite like to go to the morgue, perhaps.
Oh, yes, there might be information there that we hadn't thought of. Very good. You are truly indispensable, Wainsworth.
So it seems like we have Miss Cross going to the Illustrated Police News, Mr. Rose heading to 18 St. James's Street, and Wainsworth checking out the morgue. So Miss Hess did die a couple months ago, so her body won't be there, but probably there will be some morticians or some records of what the state of the body was when she arrived there.
Perfect.
Let's start with Miss Cross. So a little bit of a history lesson for you all. The Illustrated Police News, an actual publication that started up in the 1860s, basically the first British tabloid that was known for publishing pretty gory, Penny Dreadful-esque, attention-grabbing headlines that were accompanied by just absolutely nasty illustrations in order to sell papers. So I have a paint the scene for you all. Paint the scene is a mechanic where I'm going to ask you all a question, and all of you, even though only Miss Cross is present in the scene, are going to help me flesh out the scene. So what I'm going to ask you all as Miss Cross arrives at the offices for the Illustrated Police News, what are some of the salacious headlines and illustrations that we see from the current edition of the Illustrated Police News that's being prepped for release?
One is more bodies bloated and blue pulled from the Thames, and it's just woodcut illustrations of just these waterlogged bodies.
I love that. I mean, I don't love that, but I love that.
If we're going with the tabloid direction, maybe there's some that are theorizing that the Queen is having affairs with different lower level individuals in the city of London, and there's some artistic renderings of what that might look like.
I love the idea of just pornography of Queen Victoria.
Someone's got to do it.
Prince Albert is already dead now, so, she's a free lady. Someone has to comfort her in her mourning.
Perfect. Who's going to take care of her?
I think there's one that says, certain members of high society, secret vampires.
It's a cutout picture of Lancel.
It's a paparazzi shot of Lancel.
Oh my
With,
God.
Poorly scribbled on fangs sticking out.
Lancel leaving the grocery store.
I would
picture.
never go to the grocery store.
Only I would.
Miss Cross, you arrive at the Illustrated Police News. There is a young receptionist sitting at a little front desk, and she looks at you. May I help you, miss?
I sit down on the edge of her desk. Well, I sure hope so.
Oh, American.
Not from here.
Well, yes, how could you tell?
I have a cousin in New York City. His name is Theodore. I don't suppose you know him.
Well, I've been to New York myself, so I just might.
Wonderful. How might I help you?
What's your name?
Oh, it's Lillian.
Lillian.
Yes,
Oh, that's just gorgeous.
thank you.
Lillian, I was wondering if you could help me out here, and I pull out the issue of the paper. I came across this story from a few months back, and it's, it's just awful, but it seemed a little odd to me, and I was wondering if I could speak to the editor or whoever worked on publishing this story.
Oh, yes, of course. That would be Mr. Hall.
And she sort of leans in kind of conspiratorially to you.
I do all of his typing, so I don't suppose you could also talk to me if we don't need to necessarily bother Mr. Hall, if you would like.
Why now? Why would I bother talking to Mr. Hall if I could talk to you?
Wonderful. Yes, what is it that you'd like to know?
And go ahead and make the information move with presence.
Ooh, okay.
I'll go ahead and read that move. The information move, when you search for a clue, conduct research, or otherwise gather information, describe how you're doing so, and roll with an appropriate ability. On a hit, you'll find a clue. The keeper will tell you what it is. On a 7 to 9, there is a complication, either with the clue itself or a complication you encounter while searching. The keeper will tell you what the complication is. On a 12 plus, you find a mastermind clue.
11.
Nice.
Ooh.
Let's go.
You could always bump it up and spend that mask in order to reveal the appearance of the mastermind.
Yeah, I think I'll hold off.
Wonderful. We're going to jump to Mr. Rose.
I approach the house. I walk up and knock on the front door.
This is a row of townhouses that are occupied by, I'm going to say, the middle class. The British middle class at this point is certainly equivalent to what we would imagine the upper class of American society to be. Just not like lords and ladies, but definitely a rather wealthy street. And you go up and knock on the door, and it takes a long time for someone to answer it.
I wait and politely knock again.
You hear the shreds of a hushed conversation from a woman saying, "Well, I can't possibly answer my own door. Can you imagine what people would think if they saw me answering the door by myself? I don't care that it's not your job. I am the lady of this house, and I demand that you do so." And you hear stomping footsteps going away. And then finally, the door is opened by a square-framed woman who is wearing like a smeared apron, like very clearly the cook who got roped into doing this. She is quite jowly. She smells overwhelmingly like onion and tobacco and seems very upset at having to answer the door. But it occurs to you that maybe the person who ordinarily used to answer the door is no longer with us.
It's been months of just, what are we going to do about this door knocking thing?
How are we ever
Someone's got to answer it.
Oh, good morning. My name's Mr. Rose. I'm doing a bit of research.
Oh, are you here for a ghost tour?
Oh, I didn't know that was an option.
Oh, yes, Mr. Beale has been looking for some way for the house to make some money, so...
Oh, well, I suppose after recent events, that certainly is an option for you. Was Jenny someone you knew?
She was a nice girl. I mean, maybe a bit young, a bit daft in the head a bit, but, she was good with the baby.
Oh,
Mrs. Beale liked her.
she was someone that looked after the children then.
Well, Mary Alice, mostly.
Oh.
I suppose one could attempt to look after Roger, but he's of the age where he doesn't like anyone telling him what to do.
Oh, yes, understood. I apologize. It seems as if you were busy. Would you mind if I came in and asked a few questions?
Of me, sir?
Yes, of course.
I assure you, I don't know anything about no ghost.
Oh, that's all right. I'm really intrigued by the story of what happened here overall, and everyone's perspectives, especially those that work the hardest in the house, would be the people to ask. And I want to pull out a little cigarette case from my pocket and open it up and offer her one.
All right. She takes it, no qualms.
I hope you don't mind having to go down to the kitchens with me, Mr. Rose. Mrs. Beale has a mind for mutton tonight, and so I have to get that all sorted out.
Oh, absolutely. I would be delighted to help. I'm a fair hand with a knife.
You are full of surprises, Mr. Rose.
And she opens the door and lets you in. As you are crossing the door, behind you from the row of hedges that leads to the neighboring property, you do hear the rustle of hedges as if someone had been watching this interaction.
I most certainly want to see if I can catch anything out of the corner of my eye of who or what might be watching.
You see, sprinting, but, with small steps, because she's in a long skirt, but, trying to sort of hurriedly go back through her front door, is a woman who is wearing a rather too tight corset. Her hair is done up with streaks of gray in her hair, and she is, walking back to her house, being like, oh, I thought that those hedges needed a bit of a trimming, but actually, they're fine. She's just said sort of loudly to nobody as she's going back into her house.
One of the things I think I forgot in my description, that when I'm more out and in public, I have a little set of those dark glasses, dark shades that clip to the bridge of my nose.
Oh, yes.
Just to cover my unusual eyes. I think they're kind of probably a dark blue lens. So as I'm walking in and looking over my shoulder, I kind of lower them and look over them and just give a little nod and a wink to that woman as I go inside.
She slams the door really firmly. But heading with the cook, who introduces herself as Irma Thicket, into the servants' quarters. This is in the basement of the house, as would be traditional. This is the kitchen, as well as where the servants live. I have a paint the scene for all of you here. As you descend down the stairs, what evidence do we see that shows how, historically, the servants of 18 St. James's Street have protected themselves from the ghost?
This may not be ghost specific, but I'm picturing little clumps of garlic and herbs above each doorway and any windows, any sort of passageway really to sort of stop any spirits from getting in.
I love that.
Yeah, similarly, I think there's a section of a pantry that has a selection of salts in different coarseness mixed with different types of herbs that all have some sort of superstitious tie-in to ward off certain things that could be used separately from the salt used in cooking.
I think that there is an unusual amount of crucifixes hanging on different walls. You might notice usually one or two in a room decoratively, but there's kind of strategically placed 2 or 3 on every wall.
Nice. So heading down here, Miss Thicket immediately pulls out a huge hunk of meat and starts carving it up.
I will take off my jacket and hang it on a hook on the wall and roll up my sleeves and walk over to grab some onions and a knife and start dicing.
So it seems like you're trying to get an information move here, asking Miss Thicket what she might know about the ghost.
Absolutely. Just general conversation, just peppering with questions about your experiences here. And I know I'm not asking you about ghosts, but what odd things have you noticed and so on.
Go ahead and make the information move, also with presence.
Okay. 5.
Those onions are just tough.
Mr. Rose, as you are chopping onions, I think out of the corner of your eye, you see the glasses in the cupboard, the sherry glasses, all start cracking, and your body feels cold all around you.
I don't think I can stop a little smile.
Why don't you take the condition chilled to the bone?
Okay.
Waitsworth.
I'm gonna make my way to the morgue to try and find any sort of like death records or anyone who maybe worked on Jenny Hess's body.
Arriving in the morgue. A busy place in Victorian London, probably.
Yeah.
I have a paint the scene for you all as Wainsworth enters the morgue. Bodies come and go here quite a bit, but what do we see as we glance around these modest rooms of this London mortuary that signifies that maybe some of the workers here have taken some souvenirs or keepsakes from some of the bodies that have come in here?
Weirdly, there's a flesh terrarium in here.
God. Oh, no.
Set off to the side, mostly hidden from view, is a set of pliers and a bunch of like gold fillings from teeth.
Absolutely.
I think this one's only noticeable by the smell, that there are a couple of crates off to the side that aren't like completely latched down yet, but it seems like a very specific smell of what might be nicer shoes piled therein.
There's a unusual amount of ice boxes, some with like padlocks on them and chains.
I love it. Wainsworth, one of the benefits of being the factotum is you can kind of move somewhat unseen through wherever you are. And so I think you wander in and you find a young-ish woman, like mid-20s. Her sleeves are rolled up. She's wearing a very practical set of brown trousers. And she is reading a very thick medical text that is propped up on a body that is covered in a sheet.
Nice. Excuse me.
Oh! She slams the book shut.
Apologies.
I'm so sorry. I mean, in my defense, he's already dead and he doesn't exactly mind.
No. That's, it's not about that. I have a question that I hope you might be able to answer, but I am looking for information on Jenny Hess. Any sort of records you may have on her?
I'm sorry, there are a lot of people that come through here. I don't suppose if you have any more details on the nature of... Are you family?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Cousin.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, it happens. It'd be like that.
It do be like that sometimes.
Died from shock. St. James's Street was where she was employed.
Oh, yes. Dreadful thing, that.
Isn't it?
I suppose I could tell you what I do remember about that.
Go ahead and make the information move also with presence. A lot of talking to people today. I like it.
7?
We'll go ahead and leave you there for the moment, Wainsworth. Miss Cross.
Yes.
On an 11 on the information move, you have thoroughly charmed sweet Lillian. She's completely abandoned any semblance of pretending to work while having this conversation with you.
So, what I can tell you about what happened to poor Miss Hess, I'm not entirely sure that I believe the ghost thing. Listen, I'm just here to try to get better at being a secretary. I don't necessarily believe in all the supernatural ghosts and vampires and all that about Queen Victoria, certainly not. But what I did find interesting when I was doing some research about 18 St. James's Street was that whatever happened to Miss Hess, there was another death that happened in that house a couple years ago, several decades actually, before either of us were alive, but that was very similar to what happened to Miss Hess. Died of fright with all the gloss all around her smashed.
Was it the same family?
Oh no, as far as I can tell, the Beals just moved in rather recently, about a year ago.
Well, that is mighty odd. Who was the woman that died before?
As far as I can remember, I believe it was the daughter in the house, some young woman at the very least.
And that is your first capital C clue. Evidence of a similar death in the house decades prior.
Why, that seems just too much to be a coincidence, don't you think?
Perhaps. Don't tell me you believe in all of this.
Well, I like to keep an open mind.
More things in heaven and earth than exist in your philosophy, Horatio.
Maybe you're right. Maybe someone killed her and used this previous murder to make it seem like a ghost, or...
Oh, no! And she sort of reaches across and grabs your hand. You don't suppose someone killed that poor woman and then later came and just did the exact same thing twice? Oh, how frightful.
I'd squeeze her hand. Well, you just never know what people are capable of.
All right.
Or maybe it was a ghost.
You're a very interesting person. I don't suppose you might be free later to walk around.
Aw, honey, I'm an American. I'm always free later.
USA.
A bald eagle screeches in the background. She blushes. I think she offers you her address, the small flat that she rents.
I take it.
Fantastic. Where to next for you, Miss Cross?
I told Lancel I'd meet them at the house, so headed to St. James Street.
Miss Cross, you command a bit of attention wherever you go, just due to the nature of your innate Americanness. As you start walking down St. James's Street, once again, we see that woman in the too tight corset leaning through the hedges, but this time falling all the way through the hedge and landing at your feet.
I help her up.
Oh, I have to talk to Gregory about adjusting that hedge. It's far too so easily. Someone could just go ahead and fall through it just at a moment's notice.
Apparently, yes. Are you all right?
Oh, my good lord, American.
Is that a yes?
Oh, yes, I'm perfectly fine. Just, I was seeing about my hedge, and I couldn't help but see you walk up towards those poor beals.
Yes, I heard what happened here a while ago. Came to pay my condolences and see if there's any way I could help.
Oh, well, there's no helping them, I'm afraid. Poor stupid beals.
No helping them.
You know, she leans in, I've heard that Mr. Beale, Harold, the only reason why he's here, he got a shockingly good deal on the townhouse, but I've heard he hasn't been able to. Well, he's someone who's very worried about the cost of things, and you're only worried about that sort of thing if you don't have very much money to begin with.
And that's why there's no helping him?
All this fuss about doing ghost tours. I mean, so ghastly. Can you imagine? All sorts of people traipsing up and down this street.
Well, that's just more people to admire your hedges. Once you get them sorted, that is.
I do like you. I don't suppose you'd be interested in some tea.
Not at the moment. No, I'm late to meet a friend. But thank you very much for the offer. I haven't quite got a hold of the whole tea situation. It's not not really working with my palate, but I know how important it is to y'all, so I'm trying.
Yes, I'm afraid I don't carry Coca-Cola.
Got your ass.
Well, I'm not entirely sure what the Beals will be able to tell you. If you really want to know what's going on at that house. Well, I mean, it's certainly none of my business what happens in 18 St. James's Street, but what sort of neighbour would I be? What sort of community member would I be if I didn't stay abreast of the things that go around on this street?
Oh, well, right. You seem to be very knowledgeable about the house and the street and the people here. I wonder if you could answer something for me. I had actually heard a rumor, if you will, that a similar death had happened in that very same house a few decades ago. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?
Obviously, I'm far too young to remember something like that, she says, fixing her face.
Oh, well, of course. I just figured, maybe a great-great-grandparent had passed it down or something.
Oh, make the information move with presence.
Oh, that's a 4.
Oh, love the shrub lady. She's great.
I think, unfortunately, the complication from this is that you are going to get roped into having tea with your head. Let's come back to Mr. Rose. Mr. Rose, the temperature in the kitchen has plummeted. Curiously, Miss Thicket does not seem to be aware of this. She is carrying on with idle conversation and chatter as she is carving up this leg of mutton, but you are chilled to the bone and you hear that crack of glass around you.
Really, Miss Thicket, do you not feel that?
Feel what, Mr. Rose?
Just that drop in temperature. Look, and I exhale just with a little poof of, cold air coming out from my breath.
That is curious. Are you feeling all right, Mr. Rose? Mayhaps I should go get someone for you.
Oh, no, I'm sure I'm all right.
You start feeling icy hands settle on your shoulder.
Miss Thicket, it is Miss, not Mrs.
Yes, sir.
If you truly don't believe in ghosts, I encourage you to stay. You might learn something. If not, I encourage you, if you do hold a bit of superstition in your heart, to run.
She stays in the kitchen.
All right. I would like very much to reach back towards that feeling of being grabbed And with my other hand, I want to slip it down into my pocket and pull out this incredibly ostentatious rosary. It's made with diamonds and sapphires and amethysts. It's just the opposite of what that kind of symbol should be. And I want to start mumbling what I call a Hail Mary, because I would love very much to try to grab on and trap this specific thing in this place.
Oh my gosh. This is going to be Rites of Salt and Smoke. I am going to give you disadvantage because you are chilled to the bone.
Okay. With disadvantage, that's an 11.
Ooh.
Wow.
As I mumble, Hail Mary, void of grace, on and on and on.
Your fingers work this rosary, and that tight grip on your shoulder releases as if in shock. All around both you and Miss Thicket, all of the glass in the room cracks instantly. And they all crack in a unique pattern.
Oh.
They all crack, making a lace pattern.
Okay.
That is a clue. This ghost, you feel, is trapped in this room with you, Mr. Rose. What are you doing?
Still holding on to what I hope is the essence of its hand. I just want to, like, from facing the other way, like, hold on and spin, like almost a dance move. Just that, like, kind of a twirl to bring myself out and be holding the hand. And I just want to hold on tight for long enough to just be able to see what I can see, even assuming I'm not going to see much, maybe even nothing. I just want to observe if there is anything to see while I have it held for the moment.
Make the information move with sensitivity.
Okay. That's a 10.
This figure manifests before you. It's hard to make out. It's still pretty translucent, but just this humanoid figure that opens its mouth in a scream. And that scream is matched by Miss Thicket, whose eyes are not on the ghost, but on a porcelain vase that was on the table of this kitchen that is now filling and overflowing with warm, fresh blood.
Shadows in the Smoke is a Critshow Studios production, produced by Kim Dalton with music by Jake Purley. This episode edited by Eric Wilburn and sound designed by Kim Dalton.